I'm really encouraged, as I've often said, I'm really encouraged at the strength of purpose that you have over the many months seen demonstrated in our nation, looking at the well-being of our future as a nation, and especially as we advocate for the rights and the civil liberties that are gradually being taken away. We want to give our thanks for the participants, but also those who are the presenters. And I'm blessed that we have our Madam Andrea Williams, Shirley Richards, and Dr. Laura Haynes, and we welcome you to visit and share with us on this Zoom platform. So let us pray. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we are eternally grateful as we come before your throne room in the wonderful and matchless name of your Son, Jesus. We thank you for the Esthers and the Mordecais at the gate, and those who would stand on the walls and sound the alarm, so that those who hear and understand the vision would run with it. We bless this event this morning, and we thank you for every participant. Grant us wisdom. Grant us, we pray, understanding. And help us, Lord, as we listen to what will be presented today, we would not only keep it, but follow the directions of Nehemiah. Eat the fat, drink the sweet, but take portions for whom nothing is provided. So, Father, as we sit prayerfully, and we pray your blessings on every presenter. And we thank you for the organizers of this particular event. It's so significant in our lives. And we give you thanks for all that will be accomplished on this platform in the mighty name of Jesus. And all the people say amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Pastor O'Neill from the Crab Hill Wesleyan Holiness Church. I didn't introduce myself properly, but I am Marcia Weeks, and I am the artistic director of Praise Academy of Dance, Barbados, and filmmaker, activist, educator, Jamaican living in Barbados. I'm fully a Bajan at this point, and it is a joy to be here. Now I am overjoyed, really, really overjoyed to introduce this other lovely woman. She is Dr. Veronica Evelyn, a sociologist and the founder of Family Faith Freedom Barbados. She's a woman of God known globally for her work in sociology, counseling, and family. She's been working for over 19 years, I believe, in Barbados, dragging us all along. And now she's kind of sit back and allow us to move along and drag our coattails sometimes. But she's the mama of this whole thing, and today is her birthday. I have goosebumps saying that. Isn't this a great birthday present for a wonderful woman of God? Today is her birthday, and she has labored in this and dragged many of us along. And here she's reaping this wonderful benefit today. Dr. Veronica Evelyn, can you give us your the opening remarks? Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Marcia. You're too kind. Good morning, everyone, and special greetings to our Caribbean brothers and sisters, and to those from the global community whose hearts and hands and voices, just like ours, are dedicated to the flourishing of our common humanity. The social landscape of our world is changing. There's no doubt about that. Particularly over the last 2 decades, we have witnessed an intense promotion of ideas and an establishment of laws, policies, and practices that in many ways contradict that core of beliefs and values and morals which has guided human civilization since time began. In Barbados, the change is distinct because it coincides with the task of shaping the character and culture of the nation as a new republic. Most of you would know that Barbados became a republic in November 2021. We are now in the process of constitutional reform. And so we are revisiting many things, many important areas such as child protection, child justice. We are transforming, we are now in a national dialogue about transforming our entire educational system. And all of this is being done against a backdrop of evolving, I wouldn't say global values, I rather say evolving Western norms regarding marriage, family, and human sexuality. Now, the task isn't easy, and increasingly what is happening is that we find ourselves on both sides of the fence grappling where one man's meat is another man's poison. One such situation obtained last Friday when the Praise Academy of Dance, Speak Life, was disqualified at the preliminaries of the National Independence Festival of Creative Arts. Now, this is not the first time Praise Academy has been a part of NIFCA, but we'll talk about that more later. This morning, we are here to examine the meaning of this disqualification of the Speak Life entry, which was deemed to be prejudicial and in excess of the bounds of good taste. The theatrical piece featured students in a biology class which addressed sexual reproduction from a scientific basis. And the piece ended, it culminated with the students celebrating their true identity and calling for truth to be taught across the curriculum. Now, as we rigorously examine this issue, I pray that the Lord will guide our every thought and that our deliberations will redound to the flourishing of Barbados, the Caribbean, and perhaps even the international global community. And, you know, we do this not for ourselves. We do it and we hope that our voices, our collective voices will make a difference and will redound to the benefit of the long-term sustainable development of the region. We are doing this not for ourselves, but for the well-being of our precious children. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Evelyn. And for those who just came in, today's her birthday. And if you know Dr. Evelyn's work in Barbados and the Caribbean, this is a birthday present. We want to welcome Starcom Network. There's some media houses here already, and we can recognize Starcom Network here. That's our we're going to say our main radio station, or one of our radio stations here in Barbados. And I see also there's a radio station here from Antigua. Radio Anguilla, I'm sorry, Radio Anguilla is here. And if you're from the media house, can you just identify yourself, please? Want to thank everybody for joining. I'm seeing quite a number of pastors here. I'm seeing Pastor Selwyn Brathwaite, who is the bishop over the Pawi churches here in Barbados. It's an honor to have you here, sir, and a former board member of Praise Academy of Dance. Thank you, sir. It's great to see you here. At this time, what we're going to do, we're going to show you a little clip of this what was presented at NIFCA, and this is coming from the first presentation that we did of Speak Life at the Combermere School in August, because we were not allowed to film at NIFCA at the preliminary, but we're just showing you just a little clip, just 4 minutes, and throughout the program we're going to keep showing you a little bit. So take a listen to this, and then Kendra Leacock, the lead actress of Speak Life, is going to get herself ready to introduce Andrea Williams, the attorney from the UK. Go ahead, please.
Now, the topic today is sexual reproduction. Yes, and we are just going to go over what we did the last lesson because you're going to have a test next week.
Just so you come up with these things?
Oh,
we always got tests.
Zip it. Thank you. Now, last lesson we learned that the egg and the sperm come together and they form a new cell, which we know will grow into the baby, a new human being. Now, every baby is different. Every child is different. Some may be tall, some may be short, some will have brown hair, some will have black hair, some will have brown eyes, some will have black eyes, and of course, we know that some will be boys and some will be girls. Now, we also learned that these differences are caused by some tiny, tiny things inside the cell. What are those things called?
Chromosomes.
Right, chromosomes. And how many chromosomes are there inside the cell? 54.
You're real smart, though.
Excuse me, how many chromosomes are there inside the cell?
46.
Thank you. 46 chromosomes. We also learned that these chromosomes come in pairs. They're found in pairs. 23 pairs to give you 46 chromosomes. Now, of those pairs will have information about the eye color, the skin color, whether you are tall or short, whether you look like your mother or whether you look like your father, those sort of characteristics. But the last pair of chromosomes, the 23rd pair, is very, very special. They are called the sex chromosomes. Yes, the sex chromosomes. Because they will help to determine whether you are going to have a boy or a girl. We also said that there are two types of sex chromosomes. You have one called the X chromosome and one called the Y chromosome. When the chromosomes pair up, you can have either an X chromosome coming together with another X chromosome, in which case you will get a baby girl. Or
Okay, so that was just a little bit there because we have throughout the program you're going to it's Praise Academy, so we're going to give you some artistic expressions, and so that's going to come up, and I see some pastors smiling and somebody saying it's a biology that I was taught. So this is just part of what was presented. At this moment, I'm going to ask Miss Kendra Leacock, who is our lead actress in this production, to introduce our first speaker, Andrea Williams. And Kendra, I want to say about Kendra that Kendra's been a student at Praise Academy, I think, since she was 4 years old. And here she is. She did a brilliant job singing and dancing, and she loves the Lord. Go ahead, Kendra. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. I have the pleasure to introduce to y'all Miss Andrea Williams. She's a barrister, campaigner, and activist with a special concern for human rights in the context of freedom of speech, religious freedom, and freedom of conscience. She is the CEO of Christian Legal Center and Christian Concern, who have run some of the most high-profile Christian freedom cases and campaigns in Europe. She's a leading analyst, campaigner, and spokeswoman on issues of national importance, defending Christian rights, morals, and values. She's a general board member of the IFTCC. I have the pleasure to introduce Miss Andrea Williams.
Thank you so much, Kendra. Over to you, Mrs. Williams. Great to have you here.
It's absolutely wonderful to be with you all from a very rainy England and from a conference centre in England. I'm sure across to the warmth of your beautiful Caribbean island that is Barbados. Thank you, Marcia. It's amazing to think that we were together in Poland just 1 week ago, together with Laura, who I also see is on the screen there, and that what we discovered there was a shared love of God entirely, but also a shared love of God for our nations, for those that live in our nations, and actually that the things that you are facing in Barbados right now are things that we have been living through in the West. And I have been qualified as a barrister in England since 1988. And so there's a sense in which for the whole of my practicing life as a lawyer, I have been facing some of the issues which are now very keenly felt in your island, in your country. Kendra, I want to say what a beautiful introduction that was. And I find it particularly moving, Kendra, that you went to the Praise Academy from the age of 4. From the age of 4, you've grown up in the Praise Academy. And how can it be that this time last week, or a Friday last week, you could be removed? That production that you have produced, which is straight up truth, which is art, which is fact, which is explaining a story, that could be removed from a national competition in your country. That is without the laws to do so. That is actually unlawful. But the point is, what often happens, and this is something I'd like to warn you all of that are listening in today, is that things often happen out with the law. Things often happen on the ground first. The culture shifts. The culture changes. The culture, first of all, marginalizes, and then it excludes. And what we're seeing there in that competition was the exclusion of Praise Academy. Why? Because it was actually touching the cultural hotspot. It was actually dealing with biological truth, male and female. It was dealing with how we are made. And one of the global cultural gospel touch points is actually what is truth? What does it mean to be made in the image of God? Kendra, I was particularly touched because at age 4, I was put on a bus to go to Sunday school. And it was there that a Sunday school teacher introduced me to Jesus. And I fell in love with Jesus there and then. And I cannot remember a moment when I have not loved him. And so as we examine what I'm going to say against what you are facing in Barbados and more widely in the Caribbean, but in the Barbados specifically, the Child Protection Bill, it's about the protection of our children. Can I say to all of you that are on the screen and joining in on this call, the protection of our children, the protection of a 4-year-old Kendra, the protection of a 4-year-old Andrea Minichiello? Do we want our children to be able to go into a praise academy? Do we want our children to be able to go into a Sunday school and be told that they're made in the image of God with a plan and a purpose, that they're made male and female, that marriage is between one man and one woman? Or do we want those things to actually become things that are deemed to be harmful, things that are deemed to be discriminatory, things that are deemed to be not in the best interests of the child? That such places as the Praise Academy could propagandize a child. In fact, the teachers at the Praise Academy need to think correctly, and unless they think correctly, they will be put on an equality and diversity course. In fact, if they are teachers, we will remove their very license to teach. That's actually exactly what's happening in the United Kingdom. And it doesn't always come in hard law. You see, this is happening first to you in the culture, even before, in a competition, even before it becomes the law. And this is why I'm saying to those of you that are Christians on this call and Christian leaders, awake, O church, arise, understand what it is that is coming your way, and why it's really important that you understand the dangers of what is coming your way in order to keep Praise Academy of Dance operational in your country, in order to keep your Sunday schools operational in your country, in order to keep your schools, your Christian schools, operational in your country. Indeed, ultimately, your Sunday schools, indeed, in order to keep your very freedom to preach the gospel free in Barbados. I'm now just going to turn to a short presentation that I have for you. And I will be able to share this ultimately with Marsha, who can share it then across to the participants in this call. But it's to share with you just a quick history of what has happened in the United Kingdom. And I want you to be thinking of this against the backdrop of what you're facing in Barbados at this time. So that essentially for you to understand, for the people that are listening into this call, to understand that it's the very freedom to shape the culture as Christian that's at stake, the very freedom to preach the gospel ultimately that is at stake, is your children's lives and your Christian freedoms to be Christian and expressively Christian within Barbados that are at stake. I don't mean to sound, I may sound as if alarmist, but I have been 33 years qualified and I've lived this all in slow motion. I've lived this all year by year, day by day, year by year, in order to see it culminate where we are today. And what I want to say is that we need jewels in the crown. We need jewels in the Caribbean Sea that will shine bright lights to the rest of the world to say no to this Western agenda, no, actually, to this anti-Christian agenda. And I am praying that from this meeting today, we will see such a resistance formed. So let me share my screen for you. It's good to know from Psalm 2 that there is nothing new under the sun. The Bible speaks of it all. Do the nations conspire and the peoples plot in vain? Do the kings of the earth rise up and the rulers band together against God and saying, let us break their chains and throw off their shackles? So it's a tale as old as time when we plot in vain against the kingdom of God, against God himself. I will proclaim the Lord's decree. He said to me, you are my son, today I become your father. Ask me and I will make the nations your inheritance, the ends of the earth your possession. You will break them with a rod of iron. You will dash them to pieces like pottery. So really what God, I believe, is saying to you leaders in Barbados is that he wants to make the nation your inheritance. And he's saying to those that rule in your nation, you kings, be wise, be wise, be warned, you rulers of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear and celebrate his rule with trembling. Kiss Jesus, and your way, or he will be angry, and your way will lead to destruction. Blessed are those that take refuge in God. And so I'm saying, please take warning from what has happened in the United Kingdom, so that you will not go the way of the United Kingdom. Understand, as we are told, that in Colossians 1, Jesus should take prime place in public life, for he is truth. He's the image of the invisible God, and in Jesus, all things in heaven and earth, visible and invisible, holds together, because he is the ultimate truth. In the midst of this is something that is said to, is attributed to Martin Luther. It says this: if I profess with the loudest voice and clearest exposition every portion of the word of God, except precisely that little point which the world and the devil are at that moment attacking, I am not confessing Christ, however boldly I may be professing him. Where the battle rages, there the loyalty of the soldier is proved, and to be steady on all the battle fronts besides is mere flight and disgrace if he flinches at that point. And I want to say to you, where is the battle raging in Barbados and in the Caribbean right now? Well, it is waging where it is waged in the West, because we are importing it to you. We are saying, in return for aid, in return for favor, in return for a new constitution, by becoming a republic where all the laws come up for grabs, what happens next is that you will no doubt import a constitution that looks a little bit like Canada or the European Convention on Human Rights, which means that you will be importing into your nation the means by which an agenda has come in that strikes against God in a Psalm 2 fashion. Where the difficulties hit are around the protection of life, the pattern for family, and the place of Jesus Christ in public life. So in our recent history, this is the history of the United Kingdom, the Queen died last year. However, our nation is rooted historically in the Christian faith. And indeed, when King Charles came to the throne, he was asked, will you to the utmost of your power maintain the laws of God and the true profession of the gospel? He swore on the Bible, and he was presented with the Bible saying, this is the royal law. These are the lively oracles of God. But what has happened in the 70 years since the Queen came to the throne? Well, in 1952, abortion was illegal in our nation. Forgive me, because I've actually lost seeing all of you on the screen. I hope that you can all see me at this moment in time.
Yes, we're seeing you and hearing you loud and clear.
Perfect. Also, homosexuality was illegal in 1952. Today, both are legal. When the Queen came to the throne, 4.8% of babies were born outside of marriage. Today, it's 51%. When the Queen came to the throne, 349,000 marriages with a population of 50 million in the United Kingdom. Today, there are 220,000 marriages with 67 million in the United Kingdom. When the Queen came to the throne, 34,000 divorces every year. Today, 115,000 divorces every year. That's a massive cultural shift in the space of 70 years. What we've seen culturally is a radical revolution in terms of radical sexual revolution with the contraception pill. In the 1950s and 1960s, no longer this notion, this cultural Christian notion of a man and woman being married and in commitment. So divorcing sex from marriage, and therefore procreation from the purpose of marriage. And what happens then is that we create a need for abortion, because even with contraception, as we have seen, it doesn't stop babies coming, and we end up with a need created for abortion. And so what you've had in the United Kingdom is a massive rise in our nation of abortion. For the first year, 21,000 abortions, now 215,000 abortions every single year. And as of this year, around 10.2 million abortions have taken place since the passing of that act in 1967. That is a massive social revolution. That's a very bloody revolution indeed. And it's a revolution that's all occurred within the law. So that, here we see the wonderful images of babies in the womb. That then moves to a situation whereby we have, in the United Kingdom today, pills simply being posted to women in order to have their abortion. So life becomes dispensable because the law has not protected life in the United Kingdom. People that seek to help women reverse abortion pills are actually have their medical license taken away. I'm trying to demonstrate to you some of the things that happens when we let go of the Christian principle of the protection of life in its highest order. And with it, we begin to get the push to criminalize assisted suicide. And the reason why I tell you this is because if you don't protect life at the beginning of life, so then you begin to weaken it at the end of life. And here we have cases where doctors deem it in the best interests of this young woman, a 19-year-old who was fully compos mentis in her right mind, who said, I do not want my treatment withdrawn, but she had mitochondrial disease. But the doctor said, despite your parents not wanting your treatment to be withdrawn, and despite you not wanting your treatment to be withdrawn, you are deluded. And here is part of the judgment here, and this came in September, that you are actively dying and it's in your best interests to die. And I say this because in the Barbados Child Protection Act, it's the same language that is used. So beware of these terms. When the government says that the government decides what is in the best interest of the child, that will override what the parent says is in the best interests of the child. This is not even just with regard to sexuality issues, but to life itself, as we have seen in the case of Sudiksha. I know that I am rattling through this, and I'm rattling through it, and I hope that you are able to grasp some of the enormity of it. That term, best interest, is being used even this morning in this case. This morning, a judgment came through from Lady Justice King, and she said that this child who's been offered treatment in Italy from England and could be moved today, they are saying it is in her best interests to die. And they are saying she is a ward of the state because the parents do not know best for her. I'm saying this because this is England, and this is how those words in law are being used, even to take the life of a child, where the government says, where the judges say it's not in that child's best interests, and the parents do not know best. And so then with fertility treatments becoming the norm, you then get a situation whereby, because it's now possible, and fertility treatments became a norm because we began to be able to create an experiment upon embryos. And that's why I've given you the whole abortion statistics and the fact if you don't protect life and think that you can make or take life when you want within your laws, you end up then creating family in your own image. And so what the West has done is they've made an idol of self, an idol of rights. And what we now have is the wholesale redefining in our laws of marriage. And here Tom Daley, famous diver, and his LA producer husband, a very famous couple in the United Kingdom and beyond, of course, have 2 boys by surrogacy. And now in our law in the United Kingdom, it says this unit is entirely protected in law as a good. And if you say it is not, then Praise Academy, you will get removed from that stage. Then leader of the Praise Academy, then leader of the Sunday school, you will be removed or from that position until you think properly. So what we had in the United Kingdom is a whole series of laws in order to do this, but you will be getting this come through, your redefining of this through the Child Protection Bill. It will sound like it is kind. Kind language is always used. Benign language is always used. And the best interest of the child, no discrimination on the grounds of homosexuality, of grounds of sexual orientation or gender. It will always sound kind, but what in the end it does is inhibit any declaration of Christian truth. It will view that, despite religious freedom being a protected characteristic as well, what we often find in the courts is that that gets trumped by sexual orientation rights. So what we had was, first of all, just this declaration at the turn of the century in the United Kingdom to say, all we want is rights as homosexuals. We do not want to be discriminated against. So the sexual orientation regulations were produced in 2003. Then in 2004, a Gender Recognition Act, which actually allowed for the legal recognition of a transsexual's acquired gender. So for the first time in law, government documents say something that is not true about the chromosomes, as with the XX and the XY. So you can actually change your government statistics. The Civil Partnerships Act was all meant to be just about rights for a same-sex couple, just to have their rights registered. And many said they need to have their rights registered. But in fact, what it does is it totally upends family and family relationships. What this does is it undermines marriage. And what you then have is civil partnership being put on a par in law with marriage. And it very quickly becomes, as it did in our nation, same-sex marriage. And in fact, in the Caribbean, what you might well have is a shift, not first of all into civil partnerships or civil unions, but straight to marriage, straight to same-sex marriage. But it's not just marriage between 2 adults, because as I've demonstrated earlier, as a result of not upholding life laws and the introduction of fertility treatments, what you actually get is the family right redefined by ideology and reproductive technology to be 2 men, 2 women, a man and a woman, married, civilly partnered, with children, either naturally or by way of fertility treatments. All of those units are to be absolutely protected in law. And unless you protect them and say they are absolutely equivalent, if you say anything different, you will be subject to a discrimination claim. You may well be subject to discipline within the workplace. But this is where it really comes unstuck. And I'm speaking specifically to the leaders of the church. What is it that we then have in the United Kingdom? Well, we have this. And if you could just bear with me while I'm just calling in my colleagues to come and speak to you as well. Just bear with me. So this is our Archbishop of Canterbury, the senior cleric in the church in the United Kingdom. Back in 2013, he said it's clearly essential that stable and faithful same-sex relationships should, where those involved want it, be recognised and supported with as much dignity and the same legal effect as marriage. So there he conceded civil partnerships. Church, you must understand what it is that is happening when you actually begin to think that that's all just about rights. And then at the beginning of this year, he said that the church will bless same-sex marriage and civil partnerships. He will give special union status, special blessings to same-sex marriages. In November, we go into a synod in the Church of England where they will bless gay partnerships. Here we have a senior bishop, in fact, a bishop that is known for being evangelical. He actually has introduced liturgy to recognize a person who identifies as trans in their new gender with their new name. And then we have situations where in the Methodist Church, for instance, same-sex marriage is introduced. Furthermore, in our political system, and when you have conservative politicians saying that they support gay marriage, not despite being a conservative, but because they are a conservative, that becomes very serious indeed. And then we have the David Cameron at the time saying absolutely clearly that he's told the Bill team that he's going to export same-sex marriage and the bill across the world. And he's going to work with international partners. So that's international partners and structures that is coming to the Barbados, that is coming to the Caribbean, that comes to the just excuse me for 1 second, Anna. Could you just help me so I can see some of the participants here as well? I've got it on the full screen so I can actually see some participants. Thank you. I can now see you again. You've all been restored, or some of you, which makes me feel so much better because I was speaking straight to a screen. Thank you for your patience. But you see there that what you're seeing is our government working with the UN-led and UN member states organisations to support pride events, international days, equality offices in your countries in order to change the laws. And this will be all over your new constitution in Barbados. It will be all over it. And so you will go from where you are right now to a highly developed new constitution with all the historic jurisprudence and case argument of the past 40 years in the West. So your child protection bill is an entry bill. It's an entry bill in terms of the rights of the child, the rights of the parent, and how family is structured. That's why it's so important. And I'm here in order to warn you of that, so that you as the church are alive to this, in order, I pray, to resist it in these coming days. And I pray that it is not too late, but certainly in order then to resist civil partnerships, to resist same-sex marriage, to resist the weakening of laws around beginning and end of life protection, to understand that when non-governmental organizations come in, what they are doing is actually bringing with them this kind of philosophical and moral framework that commands allegiance or else punishment. I have someone who's just walked into the room right now, and I'm going to introduce him to you. This is a theology lecturer at a Methodist college, Aaron Edwards, who tweeted in support of marriage and against same-sex marriage, against homosexuality. And as a result of that, within a so-called evangelical college, a Methodist college in our country, he found himself suspended and sacked for gross misconduct. So Aaron, will you please speak to the people of Barbados and the Caribbean?
Yes, hello all. Nice to see you, and we're so glad that Andrea is able to speak to you guys and to help input into some of the challenges you guys are facing, because they are tremendous, and we do need to help, Christians need to help each other across the world in all these sorts of ways. So yeah, I can, you know, my situation, I guess you want me to talk about it a little bit, how it happened. So basically I tweeted in and around you may be aware of the Church of England discussing same-sex blessings, obviously incrementally trying to gradually push it until they can get same-sex marriage ratified in the Church of England. That's obviously the goal, but they're pretending it isn't. And I was noticing the amount of people who were arguing that this is inevitable, that we have to get over this. We just have to forget about our homophobic stance, which is what all the Christians have ever thought about homosexuality, what the Bible says very clearly about homosexuality, and what most of my students at Cliff College, especially those beyond the West, I had a lot of West African students who just saw this very obviously and clearly. And so I was very distressed to see the fact that I was now being told this is inevitable, get over it. We are going to bring gay marriage into the church and you need to accept it. And I wasn't prepared to accept it. So I started speaking about it publicly on podcasts and blogs. And for some reason, this one tweet went viral one morning on February the 19th, I think, earlier this year. And I said, homosexuality is invading the church. Evangelicals no longer see the severity of this because they are busy apologizing for their apparent homophobia, whether or not it's true. This is a gospel issue, by the way, because if sin is no longer sin, then we no longer need a savior. So I realized actually we can't say it's a secondary issue, that it doesn't matter, just sexuality. God doesn't really mind as long as you have the gospel. Actually, this is about the gospel. This is about what sin is or isn't, what Jesus does or doesn't save us from. So that was my argument, but the college had already denounced me publicly. All these aggressive progressives jumped on the tweet, it went viral, and the college decided to suspend me and fire me despite being there 7 years, not having any formal disciplinary action before against me. So I was very surprised how quickly they could do it. And then all of that happened. So, you know.
And I mean, and it's so here you have a theology lecturer up in a Methodist college upholding Christian theology and truth around marriage, being sacked. And also you were reported to the counter.
Well, they were threatening to report me to Prevent, which is the UK government's counter-terrorism and hate speech, law for the tweet that I just quoted to you earlier. Yeah.
Thank you, Aaron, for coming in and joining me. We're at the conference together today, around 157 of us here here in the centre of England, but a resistance within the church. Thank you so much for joining me here, Aaron. It's great to be with you. So I think that there you can see that this is the reality, but it's not just that people. So for doing his job, he was sacked, and also, but it's not just that. We are living in an age of absolutely the threat of from our counter-terrorism organization. This man, the Christian, is such a threat that he's a threat to the very security of the nation. So, I mean, and I think that, again, our Department for International Aid talks about including sexual orientation and gender identity as part of the social impact analysis. So that's what they are doing across the world. At the time, our Deputy Prime Minister, when our same-sex marriage bill came in, said, I don't know what you're all worried about with this redefining of marriage. It's all going to become very normal. Well, it does for your children. And this is what I would talk about, the culture. It's come to the Praise Academy and they get removed because they're not getting with the programme. But this is our Department of Education, our state education. So see, I'm an LGBT champion, and you'll also see on the signature, it was a she and a her. But then these are the books that are in our schools. Daddy's Roommate, An Orgasm a Day for our teens. Heather Has Two Mummies and Tango Makes Three. Jack and Jim, King and King, Uncle Bobby's Wedding, Mummy, Mama and Me. Daddy and Daddy, Mummy and Mummy. My Princess Boy. He dances and he twirls, he plays with boys and girls, he loves his twinkly dress. Daddy and Daddy Penguin, King and King for children aged 8 to 9. Bailey loves his honeysuckle dress with little drops of honey and blossoms and twirls. Voices chanting, doggies panting, age 10 to 11, looks just like Pride. This child, Casey, She was 10. She refused to participate in Pride. She was suspended from school for a week. She was then, her mother was visited by social services. She was reported to the police because of what she was teaching her child. This is true. This is actually true. We had to safe school Casey because she resisted participation in Pride, and that was deemed to be discriminatory, despite talking about her faith. I'd love to play you that video. I'd love to introduce you to her. It's true. But now I'm going to stop my video because I also have in the room a teacher, but I'm not allowed. This is part of what the state does as well, in the best interests of children. The state says, we're going to sack you, teacher. We're going to dismiss you, but you're not allowed to tell your story to the world. You're not allowed to identify. Hannah's not her real name. You're not allowed to identify yourself. You're not allowed to identify the area. You're not allowed to identify the school that has done this to you. So it's another mechanism, is to say because we have the best interests of the children involved and the school system involved generally, you have to be silent. So I can't breach that court order because we could go to prison. But I'm going to stop the video so that you can't see us. And now I'm going to introduce you to Hannah, not her real name. Hannah, you were a primary school teacher.
Yes.
Teaching what age of children?
I was year 4, so that's age 8, 9-year-olds.
Can I just ask everyone, can you put a thumbs up, Marsha, if you can hear as well? Perfect. And Marsha, one of the children in your class said that they were going to transition from being a girl to a boy.
Yes, I was having a child coming into my class. I had not been told about this child until after we'd broken up for the summer holidays. And then I was told there was a child who wanted to identify as a boy, so they would be using boys' facilities and so on. And we had to call them by their name and pronoun that they had chosen. And I refused to do that. So as a result of that, to cut a long story short, initially I was suspended for refusing to go along with what the school stated was a reasonable management order. I stated that I was a Christian and it went against my conscience. And I also stated that I believed it was harmful to the child. And we raised it as a safeguarding concern subsequently. I did get reinstated back into school with the help of the Christian Legal Centre. They argued a case that, they were encroaching on my human rights and coercing me to go along with something that was against my conscience. But nevertheless, the safeguarding of the child was still at stake. And
bear in mind, this is a 9-year-old.
Yeah, this is a 9-year-old.
This is a 9-year-old that is acting out in the opposite sex, confused from a very traumatic background.
Very, very difficult background. And what we did do, and I have done, and I've read a lot of stuff even before we'd contacted the Christian Legal Centre actually about this, hearing lots and lots of testimonies of people who had detransitioned and said they'd been messed up as children and they'd made the wrong decision and how deeply they regretted this. Anyhow, I presented the school, the governors, the local authority with hundreds of pages of medical evidence demonstrating why this was not in the best interests of a child and likely to cause more harm than good. But the one thing that the school and the local authority seem to be afraid to do is to actually look at the evidence that's been presented or any kind of impartial decision about why this is harmful.
So we were producing evidence. I know that Laura Haynes is going to be speaking to you later, but we had banks of evidence from the kind of material that Laura has been producing over many years and is producing, and a number of experts, and we produced that to show there is a real safeguarding risk to affirming a child in their chosen gender. And then essentially what was happened because of that, because you reported the child to be there to be a safeguarding risk in terms of affirming her as a boy, you were then in fact suspended and then dismissed for gross misconduct.
Yes.
But it didn't end up there. It didn't just end, did it? With and they said because you breached confidentiality by taking this concern to lawyers.
Yes.
So by taking concerns that you had within a school to lawyers in order to raise a safeguarding complaint, this is a breach of confidentiality. And then what we had was a situation whereby you have to remain entirely anonymous, but they have then they are bringing an action against you to remove your teaching license entirely.
Yes, they are. Yeah. So they're going to do an investigation, and you know the Teaching Regulation Agency are carrying out an investigation to see whether I should be, struck off really from that. So I work very, very hard to be a teacher, and I think as a teacher I worked extremely hard, and they just want to take that job away from me completely and prevent me from actually being able to get any work in that area. So
and I know, Hannah, that you are just absolutely motivated by the love of God.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
And love for your children.
Absolutely. And it has to be a step of faith. And I do believe that God spoke very clearly to me that it wouldn't necessarily mean that they're going to listen or that they're going to respond, but it's the right thing to do because it's the truth. And what we're trying to present them with is the truth. I think they're afraid of the truth, but yes, nevertheless, it's still the truth.
Thank you so much, Hannah, for joining me today. I really appreciate it. And you have spoken to many people there in the Caribbean, and I'm praying that they will hear from your testimony. Thank you. So I'm back, but can you see I'm even having to hide? A teacher in the United Kingdom who has simply stood, actually for biological truth in this instance. 2 weeks ago, we had a teacher struck off who from the teaching regulation body for upholding the teaching of marriage in a classroom. Struck off. So this is actually what happened. There's another teacher again who, because of a Facebook post, pastoral assistant was removed. Drag queens are in, and people that raise concerns about what's going on. This is a parent raising a concern. She was forced to remove her child from the school. Groups, diversity groups are in. They'll be coming to you in the Caribbean, and chaplains are out. A chaplain who preached a Church of England sermon in a Church of England chapel in a Church of England school was removed from his position, reported also to the Counter Extremism Agency and also to the Teaching Regulation Agency. And the church itself has removed his permission to officiate. So, church, you need to stand strong at this point. You are a danger to children, Church of England tells school chaplain who said pupils could disagree with woke dogma. This is actually a Christian school that was so scared about failing the equality and diversity inspection, it hung up the trans equality flag in its library. One of our leading Christian schools in the country, an evangelical school, until a couple of years ago. I'm doing this for you to be warned about what, even if you think you are strong, or if you think it won't happen where you are, it will happen in a moment. Doctors who won't put on medical forms that a biological man is a woman, removed from their jobs. Judges removed from their jobs for saying children do best with a mother and a father. Social workers not permitted to do social work because they might discriminate against homosexuals. They don't discriminate against anyone. Politicians removed for putting things in favour of marriage on their manifestos. Bank accounts closed, and indeed this week, the Christian Legal Centre's bank account has been closed with no notice on Monday. We have other bank accounts from which we are operating. So actually your banking gets affected. your very ability to operate. I'm not scaremongering. All of this is true. I'm giving you testimony. I've got two people who are with me today at this conference. This is all true. It's all documented. So we need you to stand in the Caribbean. We're seeing resistance. In law, in the British Virgin Islands, we're assisting there. In South Korea, we've assisted, and we've seen a pushback on civil partnerships and same-sex marriage. Shirley, I know that she will be speaking with you, I believe, today. They are resisting in Jamaica. You must join forces in the Caribbean and resist together. I see that Bishop Nicholas Sykes is on the call, and I really long to I really long to see resistance generally across your region. And in a sense, I now feel sad that I haven't come in before. I've been very much loved you from afar, and loved Shirley and loved Bishop Sykes. But I'm going to say sorry now if I didn't help you 10 or 15 years ago in the way that I should have, if I didn't see how it comes to you after it's played out. You get to a place where people are threatened with prison simply for speaking on a radio as advertising conversion therapy because they say that they are changed. The risk of being criminalized comes next. So the solution is what we're doing today. The solution is for you to keep your Christian schools, is for Praise Academy to keep going louder and stronger, for the church and leaders in the church to understand what I'm saying today. I've whistled through it, so it's very fast, but to understand that the Child Protection Bill is about all of this agenda, and to say to you that we can equip you. We've done a lot of the legal argumentation. We've got a lot of the theory and a lot of the evidence. And we know that in 2 Chronicles, it says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and I will forgive their sin and I'm going to heal their land. And I'm praying that for Barbados, Jamaica, the Virgin Islands, the Cayman Islands, for you in the Caribbean. I am praying that courage is the flower of conviction. And I pray that you will understand that the Protection Bill is, in a sense, the Child Protection Bill is a picture of everything that I've just outlined. And when that yields, and when it yields in terms of the position of the state vis-a-vis the family, vis-a-vis the parents and the parents' role, vis-a-vis the child, when marriage is undermined, when the equality agenda gets put in, then you end up with this absolute assault actually on God's gift of life, God's pattern for family, God's place of Jesus Christ, the gospel itself. So I pray that you will awake and arise as God's people in Barbados and beyond. Thank you so much for your time today.
Wow. Thank you so much, Andrea Williams. God led us to go to Poland, open that door at the IFTCC conference for us to meet you. And Davida Maynard Holligan is on, and she was there with us, a lawyer here in Barbados. And I just want to thank her just for the company of being there and we both, when we heard you, we knew that you had to speak to Barbados and the Caribbean. And I thank you so much for joining. I know you only have a couple more minutes with us, so let me rush on. And I'm going to ask Xavier Brown to introduce our next speaker, Xavier Brown. Xavier Brown, open your microphone. Xavier is also one of the cast members of Speak Live. Xavier, are you there? Xavier, okay, not hearing him. Is his mic open? That's the mic for Suzanne, Imari, and Xavier. They're there. Their mic is closed. All right, so I'll just I know he was looking forward to doing that, but we have coming up is Shirley Richards. And Shirley Richards, I have known her since 2000 and probably 7, before I started to do films. And she was actually the first human being who told me that, Marcia, I see that, she said, I'm not a prophet, but I see that you're going to do films. I was in Jamaica, and that is actually what she said to me, and it's turned out that's what that happened a year later. And when you go online and you look up this issue in Jamaica, Shirley Richards' name keeps coming up. And I heard her name in Poland and I almost jumped out of my seat. She's an attorney at law and a Christian lobbyist and a mother in Jamaica. She is the former president of advocacy group called Lawyers Christian Fellowship. And so I'm going to ask her to take a few minutes and to share with us about what's happening in Jamaica. Over to you, Ms. Shirley Richards. Thanks for being here with us.
Thank you, Mrs. Weeks. Are you hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing you loud and clear.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me on. The problem is you have me coming right behind Andrea Minikela Williams, and that's a hard act to follow. I just want to say that Andrea has been such a source of encouragement when I think that she's standing in hostile England. Just thinking of that and thinking of her courage and all that she has been able to do in terms of just raising up a witness to the gospel within aberrant England, within decadent England, and standing firm there. I think it has been just amazing. So we thank you so much, Andrea. Thank you so much. I became aware of, when I heard what David Cameron said in 2013, that they now have all that is necessary in order to export same-sex marriage to the rest of the world. That just angered me. Really now, as a former colony of Britain, no thank you. We do not want to be recolonized. And so we object to that. We object to that. We have what we consider to be a good way of life that leads to flourishing. No thank you, sir. No thank you, current Prime Minister of England or of the United Nations. We will hold on to that which has worked for us, and that which has been rooted over all the years in the gospel of Jesus Christ. So we will hold on to that. As I heard of what has happened in Barbados, my mind went back to the Ban saga. Andrea said something which is very critical. Sometimes what happens is that the others engineer a change in the culture. And this sometimes involves pulling of freedom of speech. Freedoms of different types of freedom of religion, but so you see it happening and then it becomes hard law. So I'm just want to share just a few minutes to remind us of what happened in Jamaica in 2014. Some of you might know of it, some maybe not, but let's go. So here's Professor Brendan Bean, a nice gentleman, very mannerly gentleman, quite a gentleman, who was employed at the University of the West Indies, assisting with their HIV/AIDS program. What did he do? So I'm taking this from the court case. So Brendan Courtney Bain, the claimant, is a medical doctor and professor who served as director of the Regional Coordinating Unit of the Caribbean HIV/AIDS Regional Training Chart Initiative at the University of the West Indies, Mona. By way of letter dated the 20th of May, 2014, The Vice Chancellor of the defendant purported to terminate the claimant's contract as Director of Chart on behalf of the defendant being the University of the West Indies. So the claimant, being Prof. Bain, contends that this termination was a direct consequence of his having complied with an order of the Supreme Court of Belize in the matter of Caleb Orozco versus the Attorney General of Belize, the Orozco case. An order of the court, he had been appointed by one of the experts on behalf of the church, an interested party in the matter, and as such, he had prepared and submitted his expert report. So what happened is that after that, some groups got together. In fact, we have a letter in which a number of the groups in the Caribbean wrote to the university basically saying, how is it that you still have Professor Bain at the university? We no longer want him there. We no longer want him as a director of the chart program. The Vice Chancellor gave in to the demands and fired him. What was our response? And we could have reasoned all sorts of different reasoning, but we realized it was a moment. What did we do? Okay, we had 6 weeks of demonstrations at the headquarters of the universities, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. In fact, he was fired on the Monday night. Tuesday morning, we were up there at the University of the West Indies. Then there were letters to the editors. We made something of it. You know, we didn't just allow it to pass just like that. We did something about it. Some of us there, so we were dressed in black, most of us, and we had tapes over our mouths, just indicating what we thought was happening, in that one is no longer allowed to speak truth. Some of us there at the university, at the gate, we continued this for 6 weeks. Even in Belize, I think this picture is from Belize, they also had demonstration there. What happened at the end of 6 weeks? Oh, here is a letter from Dr. Lass Newman. This letter had written to the editor, just a portion of it, and I'm just including a portion of it just to show you that there was support from all over. He was then president of Caribbean Graduate School of Theology. Incidentally, I keep remembering that the first theological college in the West Indies was established in Barbados. Wasn't that so? Codrington College in the 19th century. But anyway, so we have known Prof. Bain as a man of utmost integrity, a careful scientist with measured views. He has served a variety of public constituencies well, and in recognition of his outstanding contribution to the Caribbean community in the field of public health as a professor of medicine, the Caribbean Graduate School of Theology made him a distinguished fellow of the school in 2009. We therefore stand by Prof. Bain 100% and pray that this evident miscarriage of justice will be redressed by the university in the interest of natural justice, the pursuit of truth, and the resistance to tyranny and oppression in all its forms, and from anywhere, which the university has inculcated in the peoples of the Caribbean since its inception in 1948. We are concerned that the outcomes of this case will affect the delivery of education in all our institutions of learning. Let me just pause there and say that to my mind, a lot of what is happening to us as a Caribbean is coming through our own University of the West Indies. That's what I'm thinking. That's what is happening. Not the only channel, but I think it's a major channel. So after 6 weeks, there we in the halfway tree. The press said it was 25,000. Others said it was nearer 50 to 60,000 of us. After 6 weeks of protest, we at the gates of the university, it was decided that we needed to have a mass protest at halfway tree. Gosh, Then Professor Bean decided to take his case to court. And I'm now quoting from the judgment. So this is Justice Paulette Williams. Regardless of the view taken of the testimony, there can be no dispute that it was a form of expression. I note that the claimant certified that the report represented his own opinions based on his professional experience, together with information from research literature related to the matter under consideration. He attached to that report articles from journals that helped to guide the opinions expressed in the report. So Prof. Bean took his case to court, and this is a portion of the judgment. Guess what? He won. So, paragraph 134. It seems to me that there needs to be no evidence of ill will or malice for the eventual dismissal being viewed as punishment. Once the dismissal can be viewed as being because of the giving of the testimony, then there has been a violation of the claimant's right to express himself freely in the matter he did when giving the report he was called upon by a court of law to give. Having already found that the termination of the claimant's contract was due to his giving the export report, I am satisfied that in terminating his contract for that reason, the defendant breached the claimant's right to freedom of expression. No, friends, I don't know if you understand this. This is a University of the West Indies breaching Prof. Bean's right to freedom of expression. Whatever happened to academic freedom and academic privilege, where one was able to speak one's mind based upon one's research and professional opinion? Whatever happened to that? But the university, through our own university, threw all of that aside and breached Prof. Bean's right to freedom of expression. So some lessons, and this is my last slide. I'm saying to us all, we need to be alert. We need to understand the times. Our Caribbean way of life is in jeopardy. And I'm saying that moments come to every country. And for us, that was a moment. And I'm thankful to God that we recognize it. Could this be a moment for Barbados? You must decide. Be courageous, be peaceful, explore all avenues of redress. I'm so glad that Professor Bean took his case to court. And then in the end, to remember, the battle is the Lord's, not ours, you know. I'm grateful. Andrea Williams keeps reminding me of that it's the Lord's work, it's the Lord's battle. So thank you all very much. That is all I had to share with you. We all need to be alert. We need to understand the times. What Andrea shared, listen, it's not alarmist. It's happening in England. And these people are intent on exporting their decadent philosophy to us as Caribbean people. It's another form of imperialism. It's cultural imperialism. And what has been done to Praise Academy, it's all a part of that, a part of getting the society to think differently about the issues. Is that what you want as Bajans? Thank you all very much, Mrs. Weeks. That's it from me. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Ms. Richards, and thank you for what you do in the Caribbean. It's really inspirational to think that, you know, here you had 6 weeks of protest, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m., letters written to the editor, you know, and then ending up with 25,000 people, and you were Christian people doing that. I didn't know that Christian people could protest and could march, and you didn't see the situation as just something that happened with Professor Bain, but you did realize that this was a moment. And I bet you they're going to think twice to try that again in Jamaica. And I'm really hoping that for all of us here in Barbados, all of us Bajans listening, that we will see and seize this watershed moment. I really am. I'm hoping that. I'm really hoping that. Well, before we have our last speaker, we have just a little bit, I promise you, a little more, a little excerpt of Praise Academy. There is one with music, which we can't play. So I hope that's not the one. Yes. Okay. So I think this is the one that we are going to play, not with the music, because of the copyright issues. And so we're going to play a little bit of that. And then Imari Brown, I hope his mic is working. He's going to get ready to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Laura Haynes. Go ahead, please.
There are only two genders determined at conception: male and female, man and woman, boy and girl, guy and gal, XY and XX. It's not a choice, you don't get to pick. That's the science. Where's the line?
Simple. That's the science. Where's the lie? And that was part of the excerpt that was presented last week Friday at NIFCA. That's part of it. Thank you all so much for being here. I'm seeing Patricia Noble, the founder of Praise Academy, is in the house. She's here. And I'm very, very happy she's in Jamaica, and I'm happy to see that she's joined. I know she was on, and they have classes this morning, so she's probably had to leave, but I just want to acknowledge her, that she's here. If you would like more information, and you can go ahead and put your numbers, put your contact information in the chat section of Zoom. Put your telephone and email so we can keep in touch with you and let you know exactly what is happening. Let's go over now to Imari Brown. Imari, is your device ready, and are you open, ready? Imari, go right ahead, please. Imari played Zach in the production. Go ahead, Imari.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Imari, and I am very excited to introduce you to Dr. Laura Haynes. So she is a general broad member of the USA country representative for the IFTCC. She is a retired psychologist, with over 40 years of experience. She served as an expert on sexuality and gender research for various professional organizations, members of parliaments, legislators, UN delegates, and high-level government officials. She has also lobbied and testified in courts advocating for the protection of therapeutic choice. I have this honor to introduce you to Dr. Laura Haynes.
Thank you so much, Imari. And over to you, Dr. Laura Haynes. Welcome.
Thank you, Marcia. Thank you to Praise Academy and to the pastors and all the other speakers and all who are attending, and to the children. It was such a joy to meet Marcia and Davida at the conference last week of the International Foundation for Therapeutic and Counseling Choice. They played the video of the children. You just saw a part of that video. It was beautiful. We had people attending from more than 30 nations who were absolutely delighted with the children, and they're singing the gospel that Jesus Christ changes lives. The children were wonderful, period. And I now have the opportunity to share some words with you that I hope will encourage you to action for your own countries. I'm going to now share my slides. Some screen share here. Whoop, that's not the one thing I want. Here we go. All right. So I have titled my presentation in honor of the children, Protecting the Right of Children in Barbados to Sing That Jesus Changes Lives. Here we go. Trying to get this to open up a little more. There we go. Okay. I am from California in the United States. This big state on the left coast, that's a very crazy place. This is our Capitol building, where the first therapy ban was passed in 2012, the first one that I know of in the world. And we have many very bad laws that come out of here and cross the parts of the United States and go to parts of the world. And when 2012, when this bill was going through the legislature, we could not get people informed in time so they could take action. And after that, we still didn't get organized or activated. We thought, well, this is just, one thing that happens. We didn't know more was coming. However, Focus on the Family, a Christian organization, had the wisdom and insight to begin to place lobbyists in 40 of our 50 states. We have 2 in Sacramento in our state who watch the laws that are coming along. And religious organizations and donors started to support these lobbyists in the states financially, the same way they would support missions or a charity. But the lobbyists needed more ways to connect with the people and network and get what they were seeing to the people. And then in the next years, a lot happened in California. Schools began to teach that LGBT identities are normal. Children must be taught this in school by state law. Now, hospitals that offer medical gender change, such as Children's Hospital of Orange County and Planned Parenthood, are offering counseling services on high school campuses. And in the case of Planned Parenthood, they have 50 they're on 50 high school campuses in Los Angeles, in part funded by the state of California. In California, a child can ask to become a ward of the court and live on government care and be medically transitioned to appear as the other sex. In divorce cases, judges take children from the non-affirming parent and give them to the parent who will affirm their incongruent gender identity and help them get puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones that will sterilize them for life. And in the case of girls, and they can get the cross-sex hormones as early as age 8 or 9 now. And in case of girls, they can have double mastectomies to remove healthy breasts as early as the age of 13. A non-custodial parent may bring a child from another state to California to get gender care, so-called gender care. I'm going to share with you the story of Abigail Martinez about her daughter, Jaylee. Abigail calls her story, Los Angeles County killed my daughter. Jaylee, at the age of 12 or 13, sank into a deep depression. She was you can see she's very beautiful. She has big, beautiful eyes. Her mother says she has long eyelashes. She was being bullied and told that she was ugly. Her mother wanted to get help for her. She wanted her to have counseling. She went to the school. Please keep an eye on my daughter. I'm very concerned about her. Jaylee became friends with another girl who identified as transgender, and that mother was affirming the daughter. And they told Jaylee that the cause of all her problems was that she was transgender too. And if she would just get her body mutilated, that would solve her psychological problems. And so Jaylee came home and told her mother that she was now Andrew. Abby listened to her daughter. She cared about her. She talked with her, but she did not affirm her new gender identity. The school psychologist, principal, and teachers socially transitioned Jaylee at school without Abby's permission. This means that Jaylee was allowed to go by a different name and pronouns, and it could mean that a child could even keep clothes that they change into at school and leave when they go home. The teachers must, this is all public at school to the children and faculty, but it's the teachers in most school districts are told they must hide this from the parents. The parents have no say. And the parents are finding out about this and they are not happy. The trans friend and the LGBT club told Jaylee she could get herself taken from home, out of her home, and the state would pay for her medical transition. So she did it. She was desperate, so she attempted suicide. Abby rushed her daughter to the hospital. She was very worried and concerned for her, to take care of her. The hospital called the social services, who removed Jaylee from her home because Abby did not affirm her daughter's trans identity, and this is considered child abuse. Jaylee only ever saw her daughter again during court-permitted visits. The court forbade her to talk about God or to talk about gender with her daughter. The state medically transitioned Jaylee. Jaylee's depression and suicidality got worse, of course. The best research shows this is what happens. Jaylee knelt in front of a train and gave up and ended her life. Cross-sex hormones did not cure Jaylee's depression. And Abby is telling her story everywhere now to let parents know what is going on, because not all parents even know, but they are finding out. And I'm telling you, parents across the political categories, it doesn't matter what their politics are, parents do not like this happening to their children in the schools, and they are fighting back. So LGBT ideology and law and policy attacks the rights to freedom of religion and speech and conscience and expression. It attacks the right to professional or pastoral counseling to heal undesired same-sex attraction or incongruent gender identity. In California, Jaylee could not have gone to a therapist to get help to become comfortable with her sex and to explore what was the cause of her incongruent gender identity and actually treat her depression appropriately. It attacks women's and girls' rights in private spaces. Boys can go into girls' bathrooms and locker rooms when they're showering in high school after PE. The boys can see the girls have to see the boy. In girls and women's sports, boys who feel they are the opposite sex are allowed to play on the girls' teams. They are stronger than the girls. They win the prizes, and it's unfair to the girls. The students in preschool through college are being groomed towards gender incongruence, even without their parents' knowledge or consent, even without, and as I said, the medical sterilization can begin and removal of breasts can begin very early. Parents' rights are being taken away. Some non-affirming parents have had their children taken away. And the gospel that God changes lives is being censored. The gospel that God changes lives. The ability to get help and counseling to live consistently with one's faith is being taken away. Justice calls for action to change this. So we began to take action. This happened finally in 2018 when our worst legislative battle occurred. There was a bill before our legislature that would make it consumer fraud for anyone, even a pastor, even a faith-based ministry, to help anyone, even an adult who wanted to decrease or manage or change their same-sex attraction behavior or their incongruent gender identity or expression. This law would have taken pastors and churches, not only therapists, before judges and juries to be sued and bankrupted. You see, all along, the purpose of banning therapy by therapists was to go after the pastors and the church. They couldn't go after them directly because the state doesn't have the license that can control them. They could control licensed therapists, but it's just a step to get to the church and the pastors. The pastors understood the danger, and they feared that in time the bill could be used to ban the Bible. We believe that in enough court cases interpreting the bill, it would have banned the Bible. They were also afraid to speak out. One brave pastor wrote a letter to Christian leaders asking pastors to speak out. This was a turning point. Here's what the pastor's letter looked like. He said, "I could not sit by silently and watch this bill pass. The time to sit by and hope someone else is going to speak is over." Pastors were training, went to the Capitol. They got training in media and how to lobby, how to go talk to legislators. And they gathered together under the dome, the rotunda in the Capitol. They prayed for the restoring our state, and they sang hymns to God. They prayed over the minority of legislators we had who were on our side. These legislators, they laid hands on them. These legislators were very brave to allow themselves to be seen with Christians laying hands on them and praying for them under the rotunda of our Capitol publicly. Church members started sending hundreds and then thousands of emails and phone calls to lawmakers. We knew the progressives had the votes to pass this bill, and we were watching day by day to see what would happen. Yet on the very last day of the legislative year, when the final vote was to happen, the legislator who supported the bill stopped the bill. We won. Apart from the grace of God, this should not have happened, and a lot of hard work. These prayers were answered. Now, I'll see if I can get this to progress. There. Okay. So we are pushing back big time, pushing back in the courts now. Parents are coming together across the aisles to take back their rights. Their rights for the schools to have to notify them if their children have gender incongruent at school. I hear a background sound. Okay, I hope everything's being heard. Okay. Detransitioners are suing the doctors who are harming their bodies. They're growing in numbers and making their voice heard. We're bringing down therapy bans. These court cases are working their way up towards the Supreme Court. We have one we're asking the Supreme Court to take now. We don't know yet if they'll take one this year. They have so many things to deal with in our current administration. But we feel confident that this court, when we get a therapy ban billed to them, they will end all these therapy bans in America. And I hope we think that will send a big message around the world. So with God's help, let's push back to victory. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Laura Haynes. The children shall lead them. And I'm praying that is what will happen in Barbados, so that our children will be able to express their faith. And so I love the way you started. And I know that in Poland, when you saw the little clip of them, and I met you at the airport, what did you do? Show me the sign what you did, Dr. Haynes.
The children are wonderful. What was the word? Wait, I'll get
Period.
it. Period. Yeah, that's it. Period.
She said period because that's how the whole thing ended. It was so very cute. But thank you. Very inspirational for us parents watching this and realizing that in California it was a child, the children leading because of what happened to them. And thank you so much. At this time, I'm going to ask Susan Brown, who's a parent, and I'm hoping that her audio will be good. I just saw her on screen, so she can go ahead and unmute her microphone, and she's going to read a statement from Praise Academy to the media. This is our media statement. Go ahead, Susan.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to. All right.
Go ahead, Susan.
Good morning. It's a privilege to be here. I am thankful for all that we've been taught thus far. So let's get started. On Friday, October the 27th, Praise Academy of Dance Barbados submitted an excerpt of Speak Life in the Barbados National Independence Festival of Creative Arts, known as NIFCA, a national competition in Barbados for young artists, and the piece was disqualified, not on technical grounds, but solely on content. Speak Life is a theatrical production of a 15-year-old girl who struggles with her gender identity and finds her identity in God. The submission was written and expressed from a biblical worldview and based on biological science. Praise Academy of Dance, a registered premier art school in the Caribbean with affiliated schools in Jamaica and Trinidad, has contributed positively to the society, to the social change in the nation of Barbados for the last 22 years by producing dances and theatrical productions, specifically dealing with various relevant social issues. They have received more than 55 NIFCA medals. Other awards have included Flame Awards for Flame Awards for Dance Group of the Year in 2002, 2005, and 2006. In 2019, Praise Academy of Dance achieved 9 places in the Caribbean region top 10 CXC Cape results in cinematic arts and dance at the CXC and Cape levels. A fundamental tenet on which the company's work rests is that no one should be discriminated against because of their religion or moral beliefs, that no artist should be penalized for creating art that is consistent with their beliefs. Referencing the court case involving Colorado web designer Laurie Smith, in which the US Supreme Court ruled in the favor of the freedom of expression, of conscience, and free speech, artist director Marcia Weeks expressed the concern that such a disqualification by the NIFCA panel of judges may impact, if left unchecked, how we in Barbados and the Caribbean express our faith on issues of gender and sexuality in the future. Mistress Weeks also laments the moral injury that the children participating in the Speak Life production have suffered, having been subject to a crisis of conscience and or potentially exposed to experiencing emotional distress because of the disqualification. In its verbal delivery of their decision to the Praise Academy of Dance leaders who were present on October 27, 2023, the NIFCA panel of judges indicated that the production denounced a particular community, was not in good taste, identified a particular community, and said that they are wrong. They also said that the piece was defamatory. The emotion behind the delivery of the piece was aggressive, and that they were concerned that we, Praise Academy of Dance, are using children to promote discrimination. In their formal notice of discrimination, the NCF quoted as their basis of disqualification Section 9 of the NIFCA regulations that states, if during the process of the competition, an entity or any of his or her supporting team makes any gesture or utterance that exceeds the bounds of good taste, wherein on or off stage, the entrant may be disqualified from the competition. The judges shall determine whether behavior is indecent, obscene, and defamatory, or in excess of bounds of good taste. It is unclear which exact aspect of the production are deemed to have contravened that, sorry, please bear with me, have deemed contrary this particular regulation. The Praise Academy of Dance has issued a request to the NCF to produce explicit details of how the production is deemed to have violated this rule. Praise Academy of Dance, in alliance with Family Faith, Freedom Barbados, Watch Out My Children, the Spiritually Aware Group Inc., TT Response, and other organizations, including non-faith-based entities, call on the NCF and government to uphold and protect our unalienable rights of conscience and our constitutional guaranteed religious freedom so that our artists, persons, and organizations, regardless of faith, sexual preference, or religious persuasions, are able to freely exercise their fundamental rights of religion, speech, and conscience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Susan Brown, a parent of two of the children who was part of the production, Imari Brown and Sever Brown. Thank you so very much for reading that for us. And she is echoing the sentiment of Praise Academy, which involves the parents and the students. This time, I want to open the floor to any questions from the media that they might have for any of the panelists or presenters or for Praise Academy. This is a time when you are free to pose those questions. And while you think of them, let me just take the time to thank TT Response, which is a group from out of Trinidad and Tobago. And they are working with us on this and helped us to put together, help us with the feed. And Sherwin is on, and I want to thank him and Pastor Victor. And why I'm not the last name is slipping me right now, but I'm going to get it before we close. But I want to thank you so much, TT Response, Family Faith Freedom Barbados, right here in Barbados. Thank you for the support, Spiritually Aware Group. Thank you for the support. And I want to say that if you want to get more information on what we are sharing here today, you could go to the MarciaWeeksShow.com, theMarciaWeeksShow.com. I believe that it is, someone wrote it in the chat, and you'll be able to get more information. I'm hoping that some of these slides we will also have available to you as well once the speaker allows us to have them, and we will have them there for you at the MarciaWeeksShow.com. That it's right there right now, so you can write it down where you'll be able to get some more information and contact us there as well if you want to join in anything that is happening. Pastor Victor Gill, they're in Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you to TT Response for coming on board. We are now open for any questions from the media. Thank you, Sherry. Not media, but she says we're praying for you and your team in every way. Stay focused. Thank you. No questions from the media. I know I saw the media here. Okay. Well, I guess everything is pretty much pretty clear. Okay, so one Starcom Network is saying good morning, and I'm unable to speak. Thank you so much, Starcom, for being here with us this morning. You have one question, you can write. So I'm waiting on the question, and if there's anybody else from the media, if you can't speak and you want to write, you can go ahead. While we're waiting on the media to pose a question, Beverly Connolly is asking, what can we do as ministers to support this cause? And I don't know if Ms. Shirley Richards is still there and Dr. Haynes is still there. I know that Andrea would have gone because she's in the middle of a conference. Somebody's asking, what can we as ministers, I guess ministers of Christ, what can they do? Someone is asking. Can you answer that? Yes, go ahead, Dr. Haynes.
Okay. I mentioned in my presentation a pastor who very bravely took the step of being the first one to speak out and to call other pastors to speak out. He has continued to be active, and gives some examples of what can be done. He has supported activists in his own church who are working in what's happening in the schools and really any issue that comes up that's of importance. He has gone to legislators, especially in his own area, to talk to them. He became a friend of. He actually met with the sponsor of this terrible bill that got us all finally activated. He met with him. He met with him more than once. More pastors also then met with this man. They loved on him. I think they had a relationship with him. I think he found out what Christians were actually like, and that they actually do love people who are experiencing same-sex attraction feelings or incongruent gender identity. Love, not hate. And I think he developed a feeling of attachment. There was an attachment that developed between them. Let's see. He participated in a demonstration on the Capitol steps. He and some other pastors. We had a big demonstration. A number of people who had changed and come out of LGBT identity gave their testimonies on the steps of our Capitol. Many people came from all over the state and were present for that. And so he was very much a part of demonstrations. He probably was a part of the training that the pastors were getting. The pastors pastors went to the state capitol every other year to have a conference and get training in media and how to speak, how to present your talking points, how to talk to legislators, how to lobby. And on the years in between, they went to Washington, D.C., to our national capital to get the same kind of training and meet with legislators there. They would meet with legislators on our side to bless and support them, and they would meet with legislators with whom we disagree to present their concerns. So maybe 3 or 4 of them would go together to each legislator's office. They would speak to a staff member who would then listen, sit down with them, take notes, and pass along their message to the legislators. They let the legislators know, we're here, we're awake, we're aware of what you're doing, and we are making our presence known and large. And they were helping legislators become more afraid of their constituents and of getting voted out of office than they were afraid of their party. That's the goal with them. So he became active in every way. The pastors organized, not only the organization that conducted these trainings every year, there were other pastor organizations that formed as well. And they went up to 100 pastors, and they kept growing up to 700. The last I heard, there were 2,000 pastors who were organized and working together. Some pastors appointed a person in their congregation to stay in communication with our lobbyist at the Capitol to keep checking on the laws, what's coming out, and then to communicate to the members of the church what was happening and who to write their letter. So they would then all write their letters to email their letters to the legislator. The person who was member of the church who was appointed to do this would make sure they had the names of the legislator they should contact, the way to email them, and the way to phone call them. So then the members of the church would take action on issues that have to do with Christian faith, which is allowed. They're not allowed to take issue on a particular candidate, but they can take stands on issues that have to do with Christian faith.
Yes.
And so that's a lot of the pastors can do a lot.
Yeah, from what I'm hearing, it's quite a bit, and we want to just commend those pastors. I see, Shirley Richards, your mic is you've unmuted. Is there anything you wanted to add on what the ministers could do?
Well, I am thankful that pastors in California, I'm grateful for what Dr. Haynes has shared with us. Because pastors need to firstly understand the danger. They need to understand that this is more than just the one issue in terms of the LGBT/trans agenda. This is about the preaching of the gospel. This is about not offending anyone when you preach the gospel. So it's but it will spread to offending, to the possibility of being accused of offending others in your preaching because you have identified certain actions as being sinful. So the long aim of all of this, is really to muzzle the preaching of the gospel. And so it's essential for pastors to understand the danger and to also to band together, as has happened in California there, as Dr. Haynes has pointed out to us, and also to teach congregants. So the wider picture needs to be understood by pastors. If I may just go on to another question which I've seen in your chat. May I just address one or two things I've seen in your chat? Right. What can be done from a legal perspective? Well, now you're all in the process of having a new constitution. Would you want to make submissions that marriage should be defined in your constitution? What about the whole matter of male and female? Should those words be defined in your constitution? Sexual intercourse, so there are a number of things that can be done legally. What one could push legally. This is a moment, you have a moment to assist with the crafting of the document, which will preserve truth for generations to come. What type of arrangements does Barbados want to allow? What type of living arrangements? These are things that you need to think about, and so, as I said, this is an opportunity where you could push for truth to be enshrined in your constitution. Preservation of truth for future generations is essential. a country can lose truth, and we have to be aware of that. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Richards. Starcom Network, thank you for being here. And your question is, what's the way forward for the group, meaning Praise Academy of Dance? Well, what we are presently doing, the first thing we're doing is we are working with our children. A lot of them were left very confused. Because what they experienced was so different from what they were being taught at the academy, what their parents been teaching them, and what they would have been taught in Sunday school. So some of them are genuinely confused, and so we have been meeting with them. We had a meeting with everybody, and then some have called, and we are meeting one-on-one and just trying to get the home base strong again and focus on the children. We've also written the NCF, and we're going through the process of the arbitration at the NCF. That is what we're presently doing. Yeah. There's some. Let me see. Somebody said that I think the media wants to ask questions verbally. You're welcome, Starcom. But that they are not. The audio isn't. I think everybody's allowed now to open their microphones. Is that what I'm understanding? Yes. So you can go ahead and you can open up your microphone. Somebody wants to know, is there a way I can connect with the lawyers who presented? Email would be best. I'm a law student with an interest in religious liberty. Go ahead and message us. Go to the website, themarciaweekshow.com, and we'll be able to, that's the safest way and the quickest way we'll be able to provide you with all the necessary information to the marciaweekshow.com, and we will be able to do that. I'm just going through the chat for any, everyone can unmute. Just let me just answer any questions that might be in the chat. Just questions. I know there are comments that's there. Any other questions? I think that we've answered all the questions that were posed in the chat. If we can accommodate about, say, 2 more questions before we close. Is there anybody who has a question? Please open up your microphone and let's just be succinct in how we ask the question. Thank you so much.
Good morning. I have a question.
Yes, good morning.
If any of the foreign panelists are still on, I'm curious how the classroom situation is handled in these countries where these laws have already been passed. For example, if a child collapses on the playground and emergency services have to be called, when you have all this pronoun nonsense to deal with, how does a person handle that? What do they say?
Well, there have been some very awkward situations for the schools. For example, a girl who was being transitioned. Of course, when they're pitting the children against the parents, and they're separating children from their parents and making the parents out to be their enemies, and so this depresses children. It's bad for their mental health. There was a little girl who was becoming suicidal. She attempted suicide in the bathroom. They didn't call the parents. And then the girl attempted suicide a second time in the bathroom, and they thought, well, you know what, we better call the parents. So they called them to say, your daughter is transgender, she's suicidal, and you need to get her transitioned so she'll stop being depressed. Well, that's how the parents found out. They were forced. There are situations where the schools are forced to tell the parents. So yeah, it can turn out to be a very awkward situation for the schools. And the parents are not happy about this across the state. Whenever they find out, there are few parents who are happy to find out their children are being propagandized at school and transition against their parents' will and want to get their bodies harmed. Parents don't like that. They're not happy. And we've got we've got Democrats coming together. We even have LGBT activists who are against transing kids. It's remarkable. People who normally would never work together are coming together to fight transing of kids. And we now have laws in 17 states that are forbidding it, and it's growing. The other side is very worried.
So
Very happy.
that's in terms of the school having to tell the parents. But if you have an emergency at a school and you need to call 911, what is that like? What does the person say? 911, what's your emergency? Oh, there's a child on the playground who's collapsed. What does 911 say? What's their gender, or like, is it a boy or is it a girl? Then what are they supposed to say? Oh, well, she identifies as a wolf.
I don't know how that conversation goes.
We don't know. But thank you so much. Dave, Davida Maynard Holligan is asking, what about demonstrations? And I want to put that to Shirley Richards, because, and I think the reason she might be asking that is because there are Christians who they're concerned about this, but they are not sure that Christians should be involved in demonstrations. You know, so I wanted to hear from Shirley, Miss Richards, who is in our, you know, she's in this region and understand that kind of thinking probably. Do you think that Christians, what about demonstrations? As Christians and pastors and those who love God, can we do demonstrations?
I can't see why ever not. I can't see why ever not. We have had to do so many demonstrations here. The so-called pride flag goes up at the US Embassy or the Canadian Embassy or the EU's head office. We're so used to it that we don't even give it a second thought. I certainly think that all avenues, all peaceful avenues available to us as citizens, that we should take advantage of it. Paul himself said, I'm a Roman citizen. You ought not to be doing those things to me. So I certainly can't see, you know, it's so funny. We believe we have the way of life, or the way of life that leads to, that helps us to make a good life, the ways that help us to make a good life. And yet we are willing to sit back. Others do not have those qualms. Others are in your face with perversion, but we are willing to sit back in the convenience of our living rooms. Something is wrong with that. And so I would encourage people, I would encourage brethren who are hesitant to stand up and go out there and hold up a placard. I'd encourage them to rethink and just remember that it could be that if you don't do this now, in the future, you will be penalized. Right now, you can do that. Right now, you can stand up. Don't take it for granted that this is something you will always be able to do. You know, yeah, that's all I'm saying. It's a freedom which we have. We have to exercise our freedoms. If you don't exercise your freedoms, these freedoms will be taken away. Don't ever forget that. Freedoms have to be exercised, or else they're taken away.
That's right. It's an opportunity to take the church outside the walls, its walls, and go out and speak to the world.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Haynes. Someone is asking, can this group lobby governments? This is Nicholas Sykes. I'm not sure which country you're from. Actually, I'm going to ask if everybody could just say which island you're from. I know there's Jamaicans here, Trini's here, Anguilla, Barbados, of course. If you can just say which country you're logging on from. This person is asking, can this group lobby governments to prevent the dangerous intended takeover of nations by the WHO or the UN next year? I would put that to Dr. Haynes, because I know in the US you guys do a lot of lobbying, right?
Yes. Okay. Can you say that question again, please?
Can this group lobby governments to prevent the dangerous intended takeover of nations by the WHO or the UN next year? That's the question.
Well, my understanding, which may not be perfect with regard to the UN, is that your government will have a vote as to whether to go along with what the UN is trying to do as a global takeover, as does our country. And we are lobbying our legislators not to allow our government to be signed on to that. I don't know how you would, I don't know how to take lobbying to the UN exactly. That's a very good question. I believe that a person who would be excellent in advising about that would be Sharon Slater at Family Watch International.
Yes. Okay. Well, we'll try to get some more information on that. I don't know if Miss Richards Mrs. Richards want to add anything to that, Shirley Richards?
Yes, well, I think Bishop Sykes from Cayman, I think he's referring to okay, so there is a UN, there is a WHO, a number of groups, and we have ACP EU treaty, which is supposed to be signed in November. So there are all these international, there's a push from different international agencies are pushing this type of agenda on us as nations. I think our first stop has to be with our governments. We have to help our governments to stand internationally and to help them to know that we as a people, we are not for these things. So please do not sign off at the UN. Please do not sign off at WHO. Please do not sign off on the ACP EU treaty. So I think that has to be the first stop. We're citizens of particular countries. We have to make our governments know that we are not there. And that we do not want them to sign in favor of these particular treaties or agreements. So that's the first step with our local governments.
Local governments. Thank you so much. We're going to just take the two more really quick ones, and then we're going to end this session. And you can have access to the recording on the Africa Bridge TV network, Africa Bridge TV network on YouTube. Okay, and you'll be able to have access to it. I saw Elaine's hand up first. Elaine, can you unmute and let's just be as succinct as possible with our question. Go ahead. Thanks. Elaine? Not hearing. Okay, so let's go over to Dave and Davida Maynard Halligan, who was in Poland with us. Welcome, Davida.
Hello, good morning to everyone, Barbados, the wider Caribbean. Special good morning to you, Dr. Laura Haynes. Lovely to see you. Good morning to Shirley Richards. Thank you so much for presenting, ladies, women of God, and thank you, Marcia and Dave, for your valor. My question is, especially going on the heels of the last thing that Miss Shirley Richards spoke, what can we do if we have already signed the conventions? Can we not now, having signed these conventions, putting reservations in our nations to say we don't want to go any further in certain areas of these conventions because they now mean things they didn't mean before? What are our options in terms of pushing back against the international lobbyists and treaties and so forth, particularly the treaties and conventions? Thank you.
I certainly wish my colleague, Miss Philippa Davis, is here to take that question. That's a serious question in terms of international law. Firstly, so then
I'm
what
here,
really,
Shirley.
Are you hearing me?
I'm hearing you.
Okay, Philippa is here. Is that what
But you,
she said?
you go ahead, Shirley, and I'll see if you need me to supplement.
Could you ask Philippa Davies to take that question, please? I just saw her.
Okay, let's see if we can locate her. Is that Black Woman
there
Joy?
you are.
No, I'm speaking. I'm right here. Hi, Miss Weeks.
Okay, all right, go right ahead.
All right, so the question is, having signed, what can we do? We are still sovereign nations, and we can influence how our country adopts or interprets the language if it is in conflict with our constitution and other laws. We would not want to adopt any international principles that are going to injure the exercise of our freedoms in our nation, or that would trample on our sovereignty. But it's important for the citizens then to speak up and to lobby and to speak to government who represents them in the international fora to say this international principle or this obligation that you have taken on is going to affect us negatively at home, and therefore we cannot adopt it, we cannot accept it, we need to enter a reservation, or it needs to be changed. We are not obliged to take on these international obligations. It's a community of nations that have come together in the UN and other international bodies to work together for the good of the world. But then as independent nations, sovereign nations with the right to self-determination, we must decide what is right for us at home. And so really it is about speaking up and taking action. Thanks so much, Ms. Weeks.
Okay, thank you. There you go. Speaking up, we can't believe that it's the end. That's it. I'm not sure if we want to make sure, be fair to Elaine. Elaine, are you able to speak now? Elaine? Can't hear you. Okay, so we'll just take the very last one is Andrew Chin. Go ahead, and that's going to be the very last one. Go ahead, Mr. Chin, open your microphone and yes.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I have well, I was the one asking the questions about the legal from a legal standpoint because I'm actually studying law in Cave Hill. But I'm curious about associations that perhaps I could explore that's centered on religious liberty. I was advised that some time ago that a lot of religious liberty issues do arise in employment law cases dealing with unfair dismissal, discrimination on religious grounds, etc. So I was just curious, in order to explore that area and to be more involved and engaged, are there associations that if is not established, or if there is an association that is not established, can we establish one? So that's more what I would like to find out more about. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Andrew.
Yes,
Go
may I
ahead.
just
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Chin.
respond to that? Mr. Chin, I'm so glad you're in the meeting this morning. You are a law student. We look forward to you graduating and becoming a part of this process. We look forward to you assisting with raising up an entity which will be defending employees and others in the name, or let me not say in the name, on issues concerning religious liberty. I have your email. I will try to keep in touch with you. We just really want to wish you all the best. We want to ask you to study hard. We want to ask you to get a first-class degree. And we're also asking you to keep your faith while there at that institution. But we look forward to you coming out, joining the battle, and also helping to raise up such an entity which will help to defend Christians in this age. All right? Against all the issues that we see now and all the issues to come. Thank you. That's all I have to say. But I'll keep in touch with Mr. Chin.
Okay, that's wonderful. I think that's a great note to end on. We have a young lawyer wanted to know how can we take up this fight, and that is really, really great. I just want to take the time now to thank everybody for coming on. Thank you, Dr. Laura Haynes, for taking up the challenge. We accosted you in the airport on our way from Poland, and you agreed to be here this morning and did a splendid job. Shirley Richards, I know, I'm always calling upon you, and I'm so glad that you answered the call and came on today and educated us. Hearing it from the region, it does a whole lot in terms of motivating us. And I thank you so very much. Of course, the warrior, that lioness, Andrea Williams, who had to leave early because she had another engagement, or she was actually at a conference. We just want to thank her so very much in her absence for being here with us and for sharing with us. I want to thank my husband Dave Weeks for the support, all the technical support, and just praying for me, everything that he's been doing. Thank you so much, Dave Weeks. I love you so much. Lisa Niles, who did all of the the posters and did all the graphics and written so many things, done so many things. Lisa, thank you so very much. And Sherwin, who made sure that we were connected to YouTube. Thank you for coming on. He's from Trinidad, and we work very, very well from TT Response. Thank you so very much, Davida, Maynard Holligan, for just your encouragement, Pastor Ferdinand Nichols, and our Pastor O'Brien, who did our opening prayer this morning. We say thank you, Aubrey O'Brien. Thank you so much. They're from Crab Hill Wesleyan Holiness Church. And Veronica Evelyn, the birthday girl. I know she's leaving this today, and she's going to be so smiling ear to ear that this was a present. She didn't have to organize it, and it happened. We love you, Pastor Dr. V, and thank you for your work. And if you're interested in joining the movement, you want to continue working on this, go to the marciaweekshow.com and you can sign up on the website. It's right there in the chat. The marciaweekshow.com, so you can know what we're going to do, because we heard something today and we want to make sure we act on it, on what we've heard. And the very last thing I will say to you, 1 Samuel 30, it's the last thing. And if Lisa could just put up that scripture on the screen, because it is when David went home and recognized Dr. Laura, that all of his wives were taken, the children were taken. And David, he said he inquired at the Lord, saying, shall I pursue after this troop? After you've heard this today, I'm asking you to inquire of the Lord. David inquired when his family was ravaged, was taken from him. He inquired at the Lord, saying, shall I pursue after this troop? Shall I overtake them? And he answered him, pursue, for thou shalt surely overtake them, and without fail recover all. And David didn't just stand there after getting that word. He got a word from God after prayer, after realizing the danger Samuel's in. We've heard what we heard today, and we recognize the danger that we're in. And are we going to inquire of the Lord? And after we've heard what the Lord said, what are we going to do? Verse 19 said, and there was nothing lacking to them, neither small nor great, neither sons nor daughters, neither spoil nor anything that they had taken to them. David recovered all. Barbados, Caribbean, are we going to recover all? Are we going to go pursue them in the name of God and overtake them and recover our family values? Are we going to do that? Thank you so very much for joining. Check the marciaweekshow.com for more information. God bless you all. Have a good afternoon, Saturday afternoon. God bless you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone. God bless. Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Really
you.
informative.
Thank you very much. Have a good
Thank
day.
you.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
God bless you. Blessings, Marcia. Beautiful job. Thanks to the team.
Thank you so much.
Well done and a good day to everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Praise God.
Thank you. Well, Dr. Laura, so much. You're a trooper. I know it was very early for you there.
The sun rose. Maybe that's a sign. Some people said in the chat that they would like to have the slides.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
happy for them to have the slides if you are, depending on how what you wish.
Oh, yes. I mean, the more that is better, good for them, because they could take this and share it in their churches and speak with groups, etc. So that's fantastic. So if you send me, we'll put it on the website and they can go there. You know, it's easier. It's one place and they will be able to get it.
Fine. Okay, that's good. I'll add a few more slides that I may have left out a few slides of information that I covered in the Q&A. I'll go back and look and see if that happened. If so, I'll add them back. And then at the end, I have some resources, links, to good resources
Yes.
that they can use. So I'll be happy to send that to you.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming on. I know you're going to get the rest of your sleep now.
Yes, I am.
And keep us in your prayers.
Yes,
Thank
and you have so much talent in Barbados. You have you're blessed. You got people who are gonna take up the challenge and have the knowledge and skill to lead you. I'm very happy for you. Very happy about it.
Yes, praise God. With God's help, we shall conquer. We shall overtake and recover all.
Cover all. That's right. I feel that's happening in America, and
Oh, wow.
Yes, I believe it can happen in Barbados.
We're encouraged when we see what's happening. I go on and I check, and now with connection, you'll be able to give us blow by blow as it is going on to encourage us, and we're doing this together.
Hold on a
I
minute,
see
Marcia. Pause a
Yes.
minute, Sherwin. Can you turn the live off, please, Sherwin? Please turn the live off.
Okay, Sherwin, just hang on, because I see Pastor Ferdinand. I think he might have something to say to you, and we want to go off the live.
No, that's fine. He can go off the live. That's fine.
Okay.
Hey, Sherwin, are you there? Sherwin?
Hi.
Who's there?
Happy. Smiley happy.
I see. Thank you
You
so
gotta
much.
pass it.
So what we will have to do, Lisa, can you just end the live, and then we will talk to Lisa, you have to become host again and end the live for us. Let's see if she's hearing. But Pastor Ferdinand, I think whatever you're saying, you can go ahead and just
She got it. She got it.
you did it. Okay, wonderful.
She's
Thank you,
host now.
Lisa.
She's host.
Okay.
It's still on, but she's host now.
All right. So
I'll just say goodbye and God bless, and I'll email you the slides.